Esteemed gentlemen, broadcasting on Radio Free America, I just got a message for our brothers and sisters in Ukraine behind occupied lines tonight. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. Wolverines! Yeah, that's right, everybody. We're here. We're back. I know you're nervous as we're at the dawn of World War III, but you're dealing with three hardened Gen Xers here. I'm just saying, when you get scared, you look to us because this is our fucking element. We were raised in this shit. Let me tell you right now, okay? We were raised for the day the Ruskies were going to come out and push into Europe. That was what it was all about. I know it's hard for you to get your mind around, especially you Gen Xers and you Gen Z out there. And I know it's like, what the fuck is happening? And this is our moment as Gen Xers. I feel for that little generation born between 1974 and 1985, somewhere in there. Maybe 1970, we'll push it back somewhere, gray areas in there. This is what we were raised. I'm just saying, this is just what we were raised for. This is what we understood. This was the world order as we understood it. I understand it feels scary right now and feels a little crazy, but we got this. We understand this. You just look to us. For those of us who can remember and were raised in the 80s, we got this. We understand it. It's a little fucked up, but we know it. We're here. We're back here and we understand it. But it is I, Josh the Birdman, here repping for the Resistance and the Wolverines, of course. Little classic called Red Dawn. Feel free to look it up. Probably pretty timely watch right about now.
The 80s version, kids. The 80s version.
Yeah. Oh God, no.
Trust me.
I'm gonna pull out the nerd cred right here, and I don't know what you're speaking of. There's only one version of Red Dawn, so we're just gonna do that thing. It's a total Mandela effect, if you know what that idea is. It's just, I don't know what you're speaking of, for sure.
I'm just saying, if you're watching a movie called Red Dawn and Hemsworth in it, you're in the wrong area. Turn it off, meditate, and then go find the 80s version. It's with Swayze. You got Thomas Howell. You got real Jennifer Grey. I mean, you got a couple of people you want to see. Powers Booth before he became, Powers Booth.
Fucking A, Powers Booth. Powers Booth is preaching in that film. I was watching clips of that film today.
Don't look up where Powers Booth ends up in life.
No. This is peak Powers Booth we're talking here. This is him in his prime.
The Powers Booth, yeah.
Yes, this is him in his prime.
I'll give him Coach the first two seasons.
Yeah, he pretty much went from that to Tombstone, and the man was a genius in my eyes.
And then Coach. Well, actually, he was Coach before Tombstone, but whatever.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, now that's peak Powers Booth right there. Don't forget Charlie Sheen. Don't forget Charlie Sheen. See Thomas Howell. Okay, I mean, there's just some good. There's some prime 80s stuff going on there. Jennifer Grey and what's her name from Back to the Future? Why am I blanking on that? Help me out. Oh, God Almighty. Rashawn, he's on the computer helping me out, showing my age.
I just want to see you smart. By the way, is it a bad time to point out that technically 1980 is millennial?
Yeah, is it really?
Probably is. Anyway,
I don't know. The lines get moved every other fucking day, and you got the Zillennial and all that shit going on.
Leah Thompson's who you're talking about, but also because we totally skipped
Leah Thompson. Thank you.
We totally skipped over this man, and we definitely talked about it. And you're about to talk about an era where this man became known and a godsend legend, especially to the Black community. But they had Ron O'Neal in there playing a Cuban. I mean, this movie, before you even get to the plot, the imagination is on fucking 10. I mean, it is.
That's fair.
And the best thing about that movie, and I'm not like, I'm one to joke and I'm one to bust balls with the best of them. But what I love about that movie, and while it still hangs up, is he speaks Spanish in that, right? With subtitles, and the Russians speak Russian with subtitles. He speaks Russian to the Russian general when he has to. Like, that's masterful. Like, that is amazing. Like, it keeps a sort of continuity that we don't have nowadays. That on that thing that you mentioned that didn't exist, they were doing everyone speaking English, right? Don't do that.
my tears for that generation, as I talked about a few episodes ago, was as genuine as possible because it sincerely is talking about generations of individuals where dreams were deferred.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And a short shout out to my brothers and sisters out there fighting on the Ukrainian lines. You have my full support. Yeah, I'll go out on a limb and say I'm not pro Putin. I think I can go that far, and hang tough.
Let's see what happens.
Let's hope. I'm just saying. Let's just
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. I may regret that later.
Yeah.
I'm already on so many lists. It's not even possible to keep track of. So, all right, we know where I'm headed, folks. We get it. We know where I'm going. But nevertheless, let me introduce the three of clubs, the man with the plan, all here, still finishing off our last week of Black History Month. Rashawn Smith, the three of clubs. How we doing today?
What it do? Doing well. What about you?
Oh, I'm just dandy, heading on into our show. I'm loving it, sharing with our audience that you two guys made sure that we got together after I took my kids to NYC. Beautiful place, really nice. First time taking them to the city, great time. Showed them a show on Broadway. We went to Aladdin, and they were just blown away by the spectacle. And we went to the Museum of Natural History and the Statue of Liberty, which my youngest, Gabe, taught me about something that I never knew about, that there are chains at the bottom of her feet that I didn't know about. And then later on, we took a private tour, well, a semi-private tour, like a tour group. And the gentleman explained that.
Josh.
I'm sorry?
I think that's called trespassing.
Well, it is, but we seem to get away with it, so fuck it. But he explained that she was supposed to be breaking the chains, and that the statue itself was to tie into our month-long subject of Black History Month, that the French were trying to make an homage to the release of slaves in the United States, the emancipation, and of course, a bunch of the corporate donors were like, why we got to make everything about race already back in the 1800s? That's not a new phenomena. No. But I was so proud of my 8-year-old son for teaching me that. And that the compromise was that the chains are at her feet where you cannot see them unless you're like floating above her. So that was great. And just really proud of my sons for knowing that stuff and for hanging in with that.
It's trespassing. I said trespassing because I'm a fucking idiot, but it's trespassing, and yeah, that's definitely what you guys said. And second, the artist who
proud
Statue of Liberty was a little bit of a provocateur, and actually, the original design was supposed to be a black woman, which is
okay. All right. The tour guide talked about how like he was really into his mom and wrote his mama every day. And like, there's questions of if her face is his mother's face or his brother's face. It was getting uncomfortable, but I loved it. I'm like sitting there like, yeah.
Real history is awesome.
I love that shit, right? And I'm looking at my wife saying, the French, I mean, like, is anyone truly surprised? Right? And but it was great. I loved it, and I love going over history. Obviously, the statue is, of course, so associated with the immigrant experience, and I get that because it was the site that greeted all these immigrants. But it was wonderful to, it's why I constantly love learning about history and rediving into history, because I get to learn about something that I didn't necessarily know, or I forgot I knew somewhere along the way. I'm only one man. But that type of thing was awesome. And like I said, made me so proud that my son was telling me those things as the history nerd that I am. So with that, gonna turn, speaking to another history nerd, respect, loving the man all the way, the star child himself, Gregory DeSense. How we doing today?
Good evening. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. Got to close out Black History Month. I mean, which means not having to listen to arguments about why we shouldn't have Black History Month. Fuck those people. This is the United States. You people celebrate a fucking donut. All right. Like you can deal with Black History Month. So yeah, Bittersweet. Bittersweet.
And
I I
fantastic.
I I, I was in New York for International Margarita Day, so
Right, exactly.
and I got on a bike and blended my own margarita on the bike. I am a
Thank you.
spin instructor, cycling
But
instructor.
all of a sudden, when it comes to Black History Month, motherfuckers got nuance. Fuck out of here. Like, nobody wants to hear that shit. Yeah. All right. Fuck you and your factoids.
As I said, what I really appreciated about that tour is it taught me the why does everything have to be about race crowd is nothing new. And if there's nothing else that history gives me solace for, is that in fact, yes, it's nothing new.
No?
Right? I can sit here and feel I'm so special for living through this particular time, through a pandemic, through a war in Europe. And you know what, motherfucker? It's all been done.
Yeah,
Like, that's all there is to it.
Speaking of Europe, it's always a good time to remind people there was at least one Black Caesar. At least there's actually some thought there was three, but at least one Black Caesar. Anyway, proceed with your understanding of race.
To the best of my humble abilities, without a doubt. But we are here. We are back. We are delving into the glories of where Black history meets pop culture and our social commentary, which, in case you haven't picked up on it by this point, kind of what we do. So we are out here trying to forge on, trying to make our little mark on the world, and just our little statement that we in fact are here. But we want to go over some high points of Black history, and yeah, we got to close it out because, of course, shortest month. Yeah, no surprise there. But we're gonna make the best of it. We're gonna rock it out. We're gonna make it last. And I do want to hand it over to the amazing Star Child to let him have his 10 minutes of fame for what he wants to talk about in Black history, pop culture, and social commentary, and bring us into a greater and better tomorrow.
Oh, well, for me, it was just like, all right, how do I want to figure this out? I was like, you know what? Black people. Let's just say, you know what I'm saying? Like, try to keep it simple. Like, what do I want to say about the people, the melanated people, the original people? And, I feel like, I've been pretty clear about a lot of my blind spots, as a Caribbean American. Everybody has blind spots. It's not a problem. Everyone can try to be the all seeing, all powerful Oz. But the truth is, we all have blind spots. No one can know everything from every perspective. And so, one of the things that used to kill me when I was younger was, you know what I mean? Why was it always Black people have to come over to white people? I mean, come on. What Black folks was doing was better. It was, you know what I mean? Like, over here, you got milk toast. Over here, you've got all kinds of culinary delights. That shouldn't be coming over to the milk toast. The milk toast needs to do better. But I felt like that was always the case. And one of the things that really, kind of put the needle on the record for me was the Negro League. When I found out about the Negro League, oh my God, my mind was fucking blown. All right. Like, it was the most amazing thing to me. And, it's like, is that a blind spot? I have never been in a class that ever even mentioned it. Like, there are so many facts about Black people that just never get mentioned ever in any context, in any class. So when I found out about the Negro League, it made my day. I went through like a 2-3 year obsession with the Negro League. For anyone that doesn't know, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. There was around like the 1920s. It didn't go, before that, like there were different teams of Black players because obviously they, in Jim Crow America, they couldn't play on in the major leagues. And so this league formed of Black players that had hustle, that had drive, that innovated the game in ways that people didn't think was possible. Before then, it was a pastime because, oh my God, can baseball be sedate? I'd like to say that it's gotten better, but it really hasn't in any important way. But anyway, the Negro League, Black people showing the desire to play baseball. I mean, I just felt like there was a romance there. There was a romance. This was them saying after slavery, you know what? We want to be part of this. This is our thing too. We were there with you guys. And it was almost like, a social olive branch. Because don't forget, in the 1920s, by then, you did have some race riots by this point. You definitely were getting the point that in the North and in the South, these people don't want you around if you ain't going to work for free. So for them to still, just kind of take this opportunity to say, you know what, even though you won't let us in your thing, petty, we're going to do our thing and we are going to play it for everything it's worth. Because by the time that this league formed, they were getting massive crowds. They were getting all of the black crowds. Everything was organized. They had a schedule. They worked longer and harder. They played more games. They did entertainment in between the innings, like the players would have to do the entertainment in between innings. They had all sorts of promotions going with local churches, and they kind of turned into part of the arteries of Black America because they were traveling around from one Black community to another. It came to the point where it was like people were sending messages and like building a tighter community. Like this was one of the things, sports, obviously, but definitely the church, definitely music, where one of the things that started making that bond between regions, keeping that bond strong between regions. And for me, I mean, I've seen, what games you can find, but yeah, it's faster, it's more intense. You see where a lot of players get most of their best ideas from. Like these people were fantastic. So I was like, what happened to the Negro League? Right, where did Negro League go? Well, it's kind of the double-edged sword that is integration. Because when the major leagues integrated, obviously, the Brooklyn Dodgers, they were Black America's team. And essentially, everybody started jumping ship over to the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's what Jackie Robinson was. Like, you went over where Jackie Robinson was perfect. He was a perfect candidate, because of his military background and his athletic background, which, by the way, he played like 5 different sports proficiently. And he was the perfect candidate. Man was even good looking. Man was even a Republican. How could you not put his face wherever you needed to put it in order to sell the idea that Black ball players should be allowed in the major leagues? And it worked. It worked. It was a tremendous success. It was very rough going. We all know the story, but it was a success. And yes, that brought a lot more Black players, more teams integrated, and all of that money went over to the major leagues, and the Negro League just kind of died off. Why, Lord? Why? Why? Damn. Why? But that's when I had to acknowledge my blind spot. And I would hear this from some of my friends, but I never really understood what it meant until they told me, like, you have to understand, for African Americans, for Black Americans, these kinds of symbols, these kinds of moments and achievements are important. Like, for example, Barack Obama. I did not vote for Barack Obama because he's Black. My family is from the Caribbean. I've been hearing about piece of shit Black leaders my whole life. I am not impressed by the fact that Barack Obama is Black. Like, I just wasn't, but I was very much impressed by the man. But I had to appreciate that as a symbol, how important it was to Black Americans. And that was it. Like, I can say, oh yeah, like, you shouldn't play in a club that doesn't let Black people in through the front door. But it's so important to get that welcome from your country. Because for you, it's not taken for granted. It's not just naturally assumed that you're getting that welcome. It's important to be shown that you're still getting that welcome. And that's one that I never felt. I mean, this will probably sound absolutely awful, but I was never particularly impressed by white people. Like never, no point in my life. I was like, yes, and that's kind of a lesson I had to be taught the further out I went into America, like how you have to treat these people. In the back of my mind, I'm like, these motherfuckers, these seriously? Like, like, we're not about to do that, are we? Like, really? Them? Okay, sure, fine. Dukes of Hazzard's okay. But it really was important to me how I mean, it really did show me how important it was to have that sense of acceptance, and be recognized, because I never really felt like I needed it from them. And because of that, I probably said some really obnoxious shit to people. I won't lie, because I would say, like, why do you want to be part of it? What you did was better. Why do you want to go over to them? Make them come over to you. Okay, yeah, you won't make as much money, but you would be the standard. By making them the standard, and again, what they're doing, not as good. But by leaving them the standard, you're always going to leave them a position. And they don't particularly deserve it. So for that reason, it is unfortunate that Black folks always had to, or else it felt like it always had to, go over to white folks. But postscript, it's also good to point out, by going over to them, they were also coming over to you, and they would be lost without you. So, I'll say, that was a fabulous Black History Month.
Excuse me, Chairman. Can I yield some of my time to the Star Child, because my man is on a roll? Frankly, if this were a fight, it's seriously TKO at this point. I mean,
throw the damn towel.
I mean, for real. Like, can we just cut it now and just call it a day? Goddamn, man, fantastic! Yeah. Bravo across the board. I mean,
thank you, fellas.
I feel you, and absolutely. And here I am, the white guy who set myself up in the second spot. Without a doubt.
It's funny how well timed we always seem to be, because news broke that the new Elvis biopic is coming out, and I'm sorry, people. You can love Elvis all you want, but if you don't understand what made Elvis, I really don't even want to talk to you about how much you love Elvis. I don't give a shit. He's not nearly as talented as he gets credit for. But if you don't even understand why he even gets some of the credit that he does, I just direct you to look up Ray Charles and Elvis, and then sit back and let it be clear.
Hell yeah.
Also, I'd be remiss to say, so fun fact, it's funny that Greg went with this. I swear to God, listeners, we did not plan this. I may actually be biologically linked to a Negro League baseball player. The sort of understanding in my family on my mom's side is that actually, because my mom and her, she has multiple siblings, but one of her brothers, they actually are from a different father, and the father was known somewhat as a Rolling Stone, and the Rolling Stone was, in fact, because where they lived was in a route on the Negro baseball league circuit. So in a lot of ways, it was his family, but he was also like, yeah, I got a few of them, so don't sweat it. So I may actually be biologically linked to a Negro League baseball player.
Well, hell's yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Glad to see
also,
someone.
Satchel Paige was one of my favorite baseball players growing up.
Satchel Paige.
And then eventually Josh Gibson. But also, I tell you stories about my dad. It's not surprising that I would know Satchel Paige.
But of course, and no doubt. I just want to take this moment to say my ancestry.com/23andme was completely unsurprising. There was nothing of interest there. It was like, oh, there's your Jewish dad and there's your white mama. Okay, good to know.
Moving on.
No surprise.
Well, since it is Black History Month, he did bring up ancestry.com. is sort of a common thread amongst African Americans that you have like way more Native American in you than you do. And my ancestry made it very clear I have just about as much as everyone else in this country, which is like 0.0001%. They basically the entire Western Hemisphere. Like, yeah, you're someone from here. You're connected to.
Someone went out on a date.
They give me half.
That's what you're telling me.
Easily.
Someone shared a drink, is what you're telling me.
someone had a makeout session once, and that's as close as you have. We grew up with so many different things. Like, we're part of this tribe, that tribe. Ancestry.com is like, you're part of the human tribe. Do you feel better? I don't know.
You feel better? There's supposedly the Genghis Khan gene, because like he fucked such a swath across the entire world. Like,
seriously,
like a tenth of the human population, which doesn't sound like much, but it's the human fucking population. Okay,
it's all of it.
Ancestry.com's like, bro, calm down. You're like 90% sub-Saharan African. Just like let it go. Like just let it go.
It's all good.
I'm mostly Nigerian, which I didn't see that coming. But
all right,
I have a few theories on that. That's going to take a few different episodes to kind of break that down, because it has a lot more to do what conquered Nigeria and how we got to one species as a whole, the human races. No one wants to hear it.
All right, parsing through that. So, well, Greg, as always, like just absolutely owning us all and showed us why you're the star child and why why you're the man we look to without a doubt. And we thank you for that.
Oh, I do what I can. Much thanks.
And you do it very well, without a doubt. So I'll milk this cream in the Oreo cookie metaphor one last time. As I say, I like to make the maximum amount of discomfort between, cutting that knife edge between racial tension and sexual tension. It's all good. It's kind of like that video with Mick Jagger and David Bowie back in the 80s dancing in the street. I'm just saying there's a lot going on there, people.
I'm trying to go Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney, but yeah, whatever.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it got a little sticky after he bought his music.
Ron DMC, Aerosmith. Actually, if you want to have some cringe.
Yeah.
Wait, who'd you say in Aerosmith? Run DMC or yeah, no, I mean, that's hey.
I don't think they were acting in the beginning when they broke through the wall and they're looking at each other. I don't think they're acting. I think the director was smart. They're like, don't worry who's on the other side. You just be you. Just
be you, Steven Tyler.
Yeah. You were in the room. Just
be as high on coke as you can and smash through that fucking wall. Right.
That's it.
I met Daryl DMC. Really nice guy. He is awesome, and
I know where you met him.
He put up with me on prednisone. He's such a nice guy, and I was still high on prednisone. And so, Daryl, if you're out there listening anywhere, I'm so sorry, but I have Crohn's disease, and every once in a while, I used to have these really nasty flares. And prednisone makes me kind of like Reagan in The Exorcist. So, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. But we're here. And yeah, I'm here just to add my bit, but I just want to say, who is the man who will do everything for his fellow man? You know who it is, Shaft. I just want to give him a little shout out to the fact of the discovery that I made at Emerson College from from my friend Brent Walton, who was the whitest white guy you will ever meet. I hope to get him on the show one day. I love him to death. Great guy. Actually wrote Megamind. Fantastic writer. And recently announced he's going to get a series on Peacock. So fantastic for the same title. And Rodney Snell. I don't know what happened to him. I haven't seen him on Facebook, haven't run into him, but he was the coolest of the cool, the black guy on my floor. And they both introduced me to the wonder that was 70s Blaxploitation films. And listen, all I'm saying is I have since I've seen the Donald Glover stand-up bit where he talks about Shaft is not the Black Spider-Man, and he's absolutely right. He's 100% right. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Josh. I really do apologize, but hold up. The black guy on your floor was named Rodney Snow?
Yeah, Snell, SNELL.
Oh, all right.
No worries.
I mean, it's bad enough the black guy, but still, I was like, God damn.
I mean, I'm just sorry. I'm being statistically accurate at the time. It was 1990s.
Well, I get it. I was probably that for many people. I'm just saying, just fuck that.
You know, it's
like,
awkward.
The Scandinavian guy.
Yeah, you know. Do we have him? Nah, he was in high school. All right, but anyway, he's a right wing nutjob. But anyway, moving on. Not Rodney, the Scandinavian guy. Moving on. They introduced me to just the absolute sheer wonder and just the amazingness that is Blaxploitation. And yes, to Donald Glover, your point is exactly right. Shaft is not the Black Spider-Man. I get it. His hilarious stand-up bit about how you don't go on a Shaft ride and hold your hand out and smack women across the face is dead on. I mean, he's absolutely right. But taking a step back to the time and the place, we know that the Birdman has a little soft spot in his heart for 1970s film. And, you know, here you had entirely Black films, really, or next to entirely Black films, very, very close. You know, headed up by Black actors with, you know, in Harlem and the themes and just everything that was going on. And it, you know, what a wonderful world I got opened up to just for a short period of time here. Okay, maybe not the most accurate. All right, it's a little cringe when I look back and I watch the original Dolomite, and they say without a hint of irony, and I quote, "While you were in the can, we put your bitches through karate school." Yes, that was a line that somebody actually sat down and wrote into a script. I'm pretty sure, because it didn't seem improvised at the time. It happens.
For Kung Fu, what was the problem with the line? What are you talking about?
I mean, you know, I'm just saying, like, how do the kids say it these days? There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, that the hero himself is a pimp. Okay, he is running girls. I'm sorry. Yes, providing. Okay, I mean, you know, if we want to get into a really difficult word, that being nuance. Right?
Motherfuckers
dare we
nuance.
say nuance. Right, he's a providing fence, and said girls do kick some ass in the film. I mean, all right, we can try and take a feminist model in it. They kick a lot of ass in that film.
It would have been hurt if it wasn't for him.
You know, I'm just saying, they all right, because they've been put through karate school. But just talk about blowing this little lily white boy's ass just out the window. Just of like, my God, this is a whole subgenre of film. Like, they made a lot of these movies.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It is truly amazing. And that I had never seen before. Cleopatra Jones is a fucking masterpiece.
Yes.
I mean, it is a fucking masterpiece. So much so that our man, of course, of dubious honor, Quentin Tarantino, you know, casts her in Jackie Brown, right? And the very end is her singing Across 110th Street, which I played for my kids when we were coming into Manhattan. Just to kind of give, you know, the right move. Totally went over their head. But what a masterpiece, right? You know, a Black woman just out there on the streets, surviving on her own, kicking ass every other second. And does lead to a wonderful little parody that I sent to Greg and Rashad once, and I'll try and remember to put in the episode description of from Kentucky Fried Movie of Cleopatra Schwartz. I'll just leave it at that. It's just amazing.
Like, I need to know more.
Yeah, exactly. You know, she burned the ghetto by night. He lit the Talmud candles. It's just truly amazing. But you know, it's just this little slice of this little piece of America that no less lit up by, you know, the quintessential piece being Shaft, right? Of just the Black everyman hero of Richard Roundtree, who's lived a hell of a lot of life himself. Survivor of breast cancer, by the way, true fact. You know, just good on him. Love the guy, right? Heads up this, you know, and just personifies that. I even remember my dad my dad was not cool and he was really not black. He had a fro, he had a Jew fro. I mean, it happens, like, and if you look back at my earliest pictures, I had a little Jew fro, and then they cut my hair, and then my mom's Anglo-Saxon side kicked in, like, and just kicked that shit right the fuck out of there. It was like, get out of here. Welcome
You went from pal to Stan.
Like 100%. But my dad had a jacket like Shaft. Like, that's how fucking cool it was. And I can remember my dad having that leather jacket like Shaft. Why? Because everybody knew from the first second you saw that was fucking cool. This guy had his shit together. This guy was the man who would look out for his brother man, right? And he was one badass mother. Shut your mouth. No, hey, man, I'm just talking about Shaft. It just encapsulates so much of that particular period. And as we talked about in our first episode, just such a wonderful little renaissance of time, of people feeling themselves. And it is a great period of history. I mean, I'll get in some trouble. I even like the very last version of Shaft they did with Samuel L. Jackson and Richard Roundtree and everything, because there was a lot of tongue in cheek. There was a lot of tongue in cheek, and I get it. It's not really a Shaft film. It's not. It's more of a parody of a Shaft film. So I get it. I'm not holding it up. I'm sorry.
How dare?
Oh, yeah, I get it. How dare I? I know. I get it. I'm not holding it up there. But just as if I can speak to the fair-skinned population that's listening to us, do take some time, go through some old blaxploitation films, because they are at least well worthwhile for a piece of Americana to understand and just look at and just try and understand what people who did not grow up like you in America might have been through at one time. Okay. All right. Admittedly, Blackula pushing it a little bit, pushing credulity.
I disagree completely.
Okay, all right then.
I do too, but I feel like your advice is akin of telling people go figure out like how to swerve by hydroplaning. Like, yeah, some people might get better, but a lot of other people are gonna fucking wreck their car. That's all.
I'm just saying, right? And as Donald Glover said, white people, we're gonna lose some of you here. Like, you're not all gonna make it. He said it in that very same skit, in his very same stand-up bit that I was talking about, and he was absolutely right. So, I feel comfortable saying that. So with that, I'll yield my time. But let's just, in that moment, as we're summing up Black History Month, let's not forget Blaxploitation, and that it held a place in history. It was a moment. It happened, people. Let's not forget that it happened.
Well, I don't think it. All right, my thing was, all right, even the bad ones, the point was, like we've said it a couple of times, like, it was about Black expression and that explosion of Black creativity. Well, this was a new thing, like being able to make your own movies, like that was not a thing before this period. And so, yes, it was very experimental. It was experimental in the types of people it was trying to make. And there's nothing wrong with turning a pimp into a hero. Like in the United States, we're always trying to package the rebel. It's what we do, until you have different kind of, 5 or 6 different kinds of rebel stores in the mall, like that is what America does. We package the rebel. So, this was, time for Black people to say, who are our heroes going to be? What do we think is funny? Let's develop our sense of comedy. Like we always told jokes for them. Like, let's tell jokes for us. Like, let's put, our foot forward creatively. And if it sounds bad or looks bad, whatever, they get to look bad and still be respected. We can look bad and still be respected. Like there was, so much heavy shit happening with Blaxploitation films. Like I absolutely still love Blaxploitation films. It was not just a 90s phase for me.
In addition, I would say why it would be somewhat of a car wreck for a lot of people is not understanding satire and counterculture, because there's a lot of what happened in those movies that was literally throwing it back at white people in the sense of like, fine, if this is what you think we are, this is what we are going to put out, and we're going to make fun of you in all the ways that you will not pick up, because we'll just keep showing you what we know you think we are. And we're just going to do our best to not only make art, but have fun doing. Like, I mean, because there are definitely movies where people are on, they sincerely thought they were making like Oscar-worthy stuff, and then there's other people who are like, nah, man, like let's like great, so let's just have some fun and totally fucking play with people.
It was
I
so
mean,
experimental. It was so experimental because don't forget, as far this is independent black film at that time. Like you can
absolutely.
almost say it was Blaxploitation, pretty much nothing, Spike Lee. Like it was just that
That's fair.
massive
That's
swath of time.
fair.
Yeah,
I can't.
and then Spike Lee started, started his career with independent black film, but it wasn't really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Totally randomly and unconnected because the show is basically improv, folks. Spike Lee was the keynote speaker at my graduation at Emerson, and I always wondered, man, when he looked out at that crowd. And he saw Rodney. Rodney was out there with me, Emerson, class of 1997, represent.
Oh, yeah, no, trust me, he saw him.
He saw him. Yeah, now I got a picture, my picture of my graduation. Spike Lee's right there in the background. I shook his hand and then shook the president's hand. So thank you for coming out, Spike. But yeah, I gotta say, going back to Shaft, Richard Roundtree owned that shit like nobody's business. When it was a scene early on when one of the New York detectives is like, well, there's after some bloodbath or something happened, and he looks at him, he says, "What are you gonna do?" And he just looks at him and says, "I'm gonna go get laid." And then he proceeds to go get laid. like, well, fucking A. All right, not bad, man. Well played, sir. Well played.
I mean, and that was honestly the beauty of it, because at that time, especially, like it was just so, like I said, an explosion of black creativity. And I can't remember the name of it, but Eddie Murphy played Dolomite. It's a Netflix movie. I don't remember the title of it though, but just Google, Eddie Murphy plays Dolomite. You'll find it. Anyway. What's that?
I think it's I Am Dolomite.
Yeah, it might be I Am Dolomite. But me and my wife were watching it, and my wife is very white. And we were watching it, and she's laughing her ass off. Like she's absolutely enjoying the shit out of this movie. And then we paused it to go do something. And then I was like, you know what? I'm glad you're enjoying it this much. Like he was, this dedicated a performer. A lot of people didn't give him credit for it. And she was like, this is based on a real person. I say, yeah, that's a real comedian. Like a lot of black comedians like say that he was a huge turning point. She was like, this really happened. Like, yeah, absolutely. So I'm keeping the tradition alive.
Well, with that, I want to turn over to our very own Superfly himself, the man himself, the three of clubs, Rashawn Smith. We're going to go on that magical mystery tour of what he's got prepared for us today. Take it away, three of clubs.
Yeah. So I guess I'll be the guy who continues the theme in which we set this year, which is we're going through decades, unlike these, quitters. And I will focus on early odds. And by focus on early odds, I'm actually going to spend the bulk of time trying to cover shit that I totally missed in other decades. So really, I'm not talking about the early odds. But when I get to the early odds, just understand, I'm just...
Josh, I'm going to need you to, make sure you make a soundbite out of that last sentence.
All right.
I'm going to need you to. I'm going to need you to make a soundbite out of that sentence.
Got to create a button for that one.
Does encapsulate everything. I'm gonna do this, but while I'm doing that, I'm totally gonna do fucking something different.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck these guys for not sticking with the theme. Anyway, here's how I'm going off theme.
Here's what I'm doing.
I'm just trying to be there for the people. That's
was
just really
absolutely beautiful. That was Rashawn in a sentence. All right.
So thematically, just understand while I focus on other decades, I'm calling the early aughts the decade where racism ends, and I'll explain that in a second.
Congratulations, guys. We did it.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
I was playing this, but I totally forgot. So here you go. Hey, Racism ends. Yay! That was confetti. Anyway, all right. So I feel remiss. And look, I guess the biggest lesson I've learned while doing this podcast during Black History Month for the first time, and hopefully for many times, is that I won't be able to cover all. Like, I'll start thinking of actors, and then I'll feel guilty because like there's like 1,000 other actors that I should remember, but I don't. And same thing with music and blah blah blah. So I'm just gonna kind of focus on just a few things this year, and for anyone listening and gets offended because I leave someone out, I would like to do it again next year. Who knows? Give me fucking time. Anyway,
Giving a big thumbs up to that. I'll get it.
Right. So musically, I left out people like Fishbone and Living Color, and I bring them up in the sense of they pushed ingenuity to a whole new level. They were giving acceptance to so many different people of saying like, look, this is who you want to be, fucking be it. Like, you can be the punk rocker, you can be the fucking hardcore rocker, you can grow your shit out into braids and then color it and then fucking whip them around and like rock the fuck out. Like, they gave so much room, and it was weird, especially for Living Color, but Fishbone to a certain extent. Like, you start talking to a punk rocker and you bring up Fishbone, they'll immediately like give you a little bit of credit. And you're gonna have to bring up a few more bands, but I'm just pointing out like you'll at least get a step with them. But like same thing with like Living Color, like they became such a call for not just counterculture but individualism in a creative way that like so many different people, not just Black people, fell under that umbrella of protection. Also, I left out, and I apologize, but again, I got excited. I literally cried this month. Like, give me a break. So I left out groups that were musically influential in such a powerful way, like the Wu-Tang Clan. Literally, there are few groups that musically existed, and I am looking at you, Beatles, Rolling Stones, that actually have the sort of like influence that the Wu-Tang Clan has. It's just mind blowing. I don't have nearly enough time to talk about that group, but also it birthed another group that's near and dear to my heart. And when we talked about deaths a little bit earlier, I think like 10 episodes ago, I left this man out because I get fucked up thinking about it. You know, I still listen to his shit daily, and it's almost like a need for it. It's almost like a certain prayer. So another group came out in the 80s, went into the early 90s before they disbanded, was a group called KMD. And KMD had a member who later on became the individual, one of the most influential people in rap and hip hop, and frankly, all through music. Like, the man put together music in a way that when he died, literally across music, it didn't matter who you were, what you did, you not only spoke about him, but you spoke about how he influenced you. MF Doom. So I left those guys out, shaking, thinking about him. Also, Bradford Marcellus. See, the funny part is like, so like he was on the soundtrack for Mo Better Blues, which is also a movie that I did talk a little bit about, and we have talked about Spike Lee. And God bless, man, because without him, there's like Greg pointed out, there was a dearth. Like it was getting kind of dark. And when you grow up in houses like I did, where, you know, not for nothing, there's a lot of Black influence. So it's kind of like, all right, y'all, like, can we get something? And on top of that, I don't bring up these movies, and I don't like to talk about them. And frankly, I barely like to see them. But like, also, most of the movies that we got in between, other than Spike Lee, were like basically like Black fucking like torture porn or like misery porn fucking movies. Like people ate them up, and they love to see it, and they want to talk about like Glory or fucking Homicide or other shit like that. He's like, oh, did you see it? And, you know, it's like, yeah, did I see a fucking movie about slavery? No, I didn't fucking watch it. Did you see it? What did you take from it? Like, why do you think I want to talk about it, Gary? I'm just getting water over here at the goddamn cooler. Like, fucking read a book or calm down, man. Like,
fucking Gary, man.
Like, so like, thank God for people like Spike Lee and John Singletary and stuff, like, even though John Singletary did give us Boys in the Hood, it was kind of on the edge, but you know, fucking Ricky, you know, like swerve, bro, swerve. But anyway, like there's other influences, and it was nice to see. But Bradford Marcellus actually brought jazz back to black people and in the forefront because y'all were on some Kenny G shit. I just need to point that out. Like, I was alive. I was there. You can't fucking gaslight me on that. Y'all were really walking around thinking Kenny G was jazz. Thank God for someone like Bradford Marcellus, who's like, look, if I have to modernize it, I guess. Also, left out people that were like the rise of sort of black moguls during these decades I left out. So we're talking about Oprah. We're talking about BET and the network. Yes, it's Robert Johnson. The guy's kind of a dick, but still, he was super successful and a mogul of a black man. Can't take that away. People like B. Smith, who were some of the first few black restaurateurs who had influence nationally and eventually globally. I watch a lot of cooking shows. I love them. Shout out to Top Chef. Give us money if you want, a little weird influence representation. Same thing with Food Network. Shout out to Chopped. But anyway, y'all sometimes get it twisted when you talk about soul food. Like, you start bringing up people. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you understand how soul food? Look, I get soul food globally is actually a thing that went along with human history. Why? Because the same thing that happened with the soul food you think of now, when you think of American soul food, was actually because slaves were given nothing. They were given nothing. So they had to make do with what they had. So what they ended up making was so much flavor and use from so many discarded things that's how you got soul food. So when you fucking bring up someone who does not look like they came from slaves and you want to talk about the origin of soul food, that's when I want to smack the shit out of you straight up, like in the Blaxploitation style that Josh is talking about. Also, and another mogul that intersects with music in a sense was Quincy Jones. Like, his rise was also during this time too. And say what you want about the man, but it's just so nice to see at least somebody in the music industry before we had like guys like Dr. Dre and others to have some influence that wasn't white. And I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but like when you see people, like when you see the stories of Elvis, and there's so many more just like that. And every single black family, or not every single, but a good amount of us knew the stories behind this. And it's like so hard to swallow, especially when we watch them getting elevated to the forefront all the goddamn time. It's just hard. So like, it's good to see someone like Quincy Jones, and he rose up during time. Also, leaving out TV influences, New York Undercover, straight up modernized and made cop dramas, unfortunately, a little too well, but definitely modernized and made them actually more entertaining. Don't lie. You had fucking Hill Street Blues before New York Undercover. Like, you owe a lot to it. You can go ahead and get to the guy where the dude showed his ass. I forgot, New York Blue or whatever the fuck it was. Like, you can go to that.
NYPD Blue.
Thank you. You also had In Living Color, straight up made SNL stand the fuck up. Like, In Living Color was so fucking influential. Same thing with 106 and Park. Actually, fun fact, I didn't really watch it. I didn't really care for it, but it actually gave platform to a lot of artists that you end up loving so much. And without places like 106 and Park, it would not exist. But I'm going back to where racism died. So we already talked about Barack, and there's so many things that we can cover, but actually I want to focus on, and I left out, you forgot, this was when we got The Rock, because he was part of a little group called Nation of Domination. So before he was The Rock, he was Dwayne Johnson, and he was hella black. But I'm leaving out the guy that I wanted to talk about, and it's straight up like, give me the camera. So camera, look. This is when one of my most favorite artists died. It was during 2000. And his rise, there's so much that has to do with quote unquote racism is dead, that he was able to do so many weird things. And he has become so weird that I have a goddamn theory. And the theory is he died when his mom died in 2008. I'm talking to you, Kanye. I miss you. If you want a friend, listen, if you want a friend, I'm here. Because you need a friend.
Come back.
Ye, I don't know who that is. Kanye is dead, so I guess Ye makes sense. But Kanye, if you're still somewhere and you're not dead, you need a friend. I'm with you. We could talk about when racism died.
Come back, Kanye. Come back. Come back.
The day
you went a little too far.
Racism died.
Rashad, I just, just in that moment of just wanting to share empathy and just a good story, I hope is a good story. I still remember one of the top 10 concerts of my life was Living Color at a little place called Avalon, which has long since been torn down in Boston, is now the House of Blues, where I got my ass kicked in a boxing match. But that's another story too. But I was right up front next to the monitors, and thank God I decided to put in some earplugs that night because they rocked that motherfucker so loud. Now, they was on their third album, so I guess technically probably on the way down from the album sales, but Jesus, did they put on a show? The best, one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. I like them. All 3 albums, absolutely love them. Do got to give a shout out to Bad Brains, because without Bad Brains, you don't get Living Color. Just to give a shout out to Black people on the punk scene out of Washington D.C.
See,
So
I left out Bad Brains. See, that's my lesson. That's my lesson.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Josh.
Fair enough. And the nerdy white guy, brings him back into the fold. But just what an incredible fucking show that was. That was amazing. My ears were still ringing, even though I had earplugs in that night. It was me, my friend Josh White, who is very white, and my friend David Heineman, who is also very white.
Heineman.
Yep. That was his name. That's legit. That's a
common slave name.
I mean,
speaking of shows, I didn't bring this up, but I did go to the first 2 Lollapaloozas, and one of them, the first one, a roadie for Body Count somehow thought I was older than I was, and he invited me back backstage because he's like, yeah, you're coming to the party, right? Because you're in a sea of white people, so obviously you're gonna hang out with us. And I'm like, I'm 12, but also
fucking A.
Shout out to Mrs. White for taking a bunch of 12-year-olds to Lollapalooza 1 and 2. You're a legend.
Fucking A.
Legend.
So you hung with Ice-T? Is that what you're telling us?
No, because I'm 12, man. No, I'm not doing that. The smoke was weird to me, man. I was 12.
Dude.
I'm the guy who got made fun of in college on my football bus because I mixed up drugs, and they're like, what the fuck is this? I have a weird childhood.
I mean,
Fair
in
enough.
all fairness, you don't have to leave. You have made it through this entire recording, and you haven't had to excuse yourself to go watch The Grind at any point. I'm just saying.
All right.
Don't
Fall
need
back to the last episode.
The 2-step will get me through every occasion. Impromptu 2-step, baby.
I 100% love it. Well, and I love it. I love you guys, and thank you so much for coming out today. It is just absolutely fantastic. I have to say that yes, we had a quite a little bit of a scramble because I messed things up and took my kids down to New York City to show it to them for the first time, which I said was a rip roaring success and a good time. Gotta try and start expanding their horizons a little bit. But these other 2 fine, upstanding gentlemen were the ones that made this recording happen today, and I am so amazingly grateful for it. So thank you so much. Star Child, what do you want to take us out with in the weekend?
If you're going to New Orleans, you should go to the Mardi Gras. So Mardi Gras, just have yourself some drinks. Mardi Gras this week, but we live in New England and it sucks. So find some king cake, find some soul food, find some mixed drinks, and celebrate you in your own way, some Mardi Gras.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, we just got a bunch of snow dumped on us here.
It's awful.
So of course,
yeah.
So it ain't Mardi Gras here, and nobody whipping those things out for beads up here, because just don't. It's too fucking cold. Don't do that.
We're all married. It's fine.
It's all good. Yeah, it ain't happening, and that's cool. That's a good thing. 3 of Clubs. What's going on down there?
We started the episode with this, and I would be totally remiss not saying how I feel, which is if our podcast in any way, shape, or form brings some sort of solace to people affected by the war in both countries, and all the areas affected by it, then I humbly say, I hope it helps.
Absolutely. Well, our thoughts go out tonight. War in Europe, always a solemn thing. And, to juxtaposition that with, something completely superfluous, if you have a chance, check us out on the socials.
We can help more if you share us.
I'm just saying, yeah. Now I feel
there.
like Casey Kasem here. Like, I gotta go on after a fucking dead dog. Really? That's where I'm at right now. But nevertheless, go check us out in the socials. Since if we're not a pile of nuclear ash by next week, like us on Facebook at the Steam Gentleman Podcast. Do you even Steam Bro on Instagram? Check us out. Please give us that whole rate and review. You can do it on Spotify. You can do it on Apple iTunes or podcast, whichever you choose. But we got a very, very nice message from one of our listeners, Rebecca. I hope you're out there listening to us, and that meant a lot to us. I got to tell you that we were able to just help lighten your mood at all. Because as artists and creators and all those things, that's really all we're trying to do here. And this has given us a unique opportunity to do that for the first time in a very long time. And we feel you. We feel your pain, what's going on right now. That's some pretty heavy shit going on in the world the last couple of years. Most of us have noticed that. So we just like to take a couple hours or an hour or so out of your day, try and lighten it up a little bit, goof around, talk about, movies, video games, whatever it is. In this case, for the last month, Black History. So, just taking that moment, but we really appreciate it. So as we're signing off, this is the Birdman, and I'm going to say this week, and going back to a reference, I'm going to say shoot straight for once. You are pukes.